Friends, if you want to watch the all-time classic, hilarious, and heartwarming movie Home Alone from 1990 in English, then you definitely need to like this video. And if you are visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe because we bring you the best updates and details about your favorite movies. Friends, in today's video, the movie we're going to talk about is none other than Home Alone, a film that has become a part of holiday traditions for millions around the world. We will dive deep into what this movie is all about, why it became such a huge hit, and where you can watch it so you don't miss out on the fun. We'll also uncover some of the most interesting and little-known facts about this movie that make it even more special. In today's video, I am going to give you complete information about which OTT platform or satellite channel you can watch this movie on so you can plan a perfect movie night. But that's not all. We will also take a detailed look at the technical side of the movie, including the direction, cinematography, music department, pre-production, filming process, post-production, and even the budget and box office collection. This way, you will get a full behind-the-scenes picture of how this classic film came together. Of course, we will also talk about the story of Home Alone, giving you a small review of the plot without spoiling all the fun. You'll get to hear about the clever pranks, the chaotic adventures of Kevin McCallister, and why this movie continues to make people laugh decades after its release. Apart from that, we'll discuss fun facts, the star cast, the performances of the actors, and who played which unforgettable role. You'll also learn about the iconic characters like Kevin, Harry, Marv, and the rest of the McCallister family and what made their performances so memorable. So, friends, I invite you to watch this video till the end because it's packed with everything you need to know about Home Alone 1990, from trivia to viewing options, story insights, and production details. Get ready to relive the fun, the laughs, and the mischief of Kevin McCallister as we explore one of the most loved family comedies of all time. Let's get started and dive straight into the world of Home Alone. Home Alone 1990 is a cinematic roller coaster that combines chaos, comedy, cleverness, and heartfelt moments in a way that feels effortless yet brilliantly structured. The story kicks off during the hectic Christmas season, giving audiences a peek into the McCallister household, which is full of noise, confusion, and that perfect holiday frenzy that so many families can relate to. Phones are ringing, relatives are arriving, kids are running around, and Kevin McCallister, the youngest of the family, is struggling to assert himself. Right from the start, the film establishes Kevin's frustration with being overlooked and underappreciated, setting the stage for the story's first pivotal turning point, Kevin's wish that his family would disappear. The next morning, the narrative takes a sudden and delightful twist. Kevin wakes up to find the house completely empty, and his family has left for Paris, unintentionally leaving him behind. This is where the story dives into a unique mix of freedom, adventure, and hilarious problem-solving. The film maintains a mostly linear structure, but it experiments with perspective by keeping the camera closely aligned with Kevin's point of view. Almost the entire story is filtered through his eyes, making the audience feel every thrill, scare, and ingenious solution alongside him. Kevin explores the house like it's a playground of opportunity, enjoying the newfound independence, eating junk food, watching movies forbidden by his parents, and sleeping wherever he wants. This part of the story is filled with lighthearted fun, giving viewers a chance to connect with Kevin's sense of mischief and excitement. The plot thickens with the introduction of the burglars, Harry and Marv, who are intent on robbing the McCallister house. Here, the narrative introduces its central conflict, setting up a classic battle of wits. Kevin, despite being a child, shows remarkable cleverness and resourcefulness as he prepares for the burglars' inevitable attempt. The tension ramps up beautifully, but rather than becoming dark or scary, the stakes are balanced with comedic brilliance. Each confrontation builds upon the last, escalating in both danger and absurdity. From the first minor encounter to the final elaborate showdown, Kevin's traps become increasingly inventive and outrageous, keeping the audience on the edge of their seats while laughing uncontrollably. What makes the narrative stand out is its combination of slapstick humor with genuine emotional resonance. While Kevin's clever tricks dominate the screen, the film never loses sight of his vulnerability. Moments of loneliness, fear, and longing for family give the story depth, creating an emotional arc that complements the comedic one. The climax of the movie, featuring the final confrontation with Harry and Marv and Kevin's realization of his love for his family, delivers both laughter and heartfelt emotion. The resolution brings the family back together, completing Kevin's personal journey from frustration and independence to appreciation and warmth. Even though Home Alone follows a conventional linear structure, it experiments within that framework by giving full immersion into Kevin's world. The narrative is fast-paced, with each day bringing new challenges, clever solutions, and comedic setups. The timing of each gag, the interplay between Kevin and the burglars, and the use of suspense within a domestic setting make the story feel like a high-stakes adventure, even though it unfolds entirely in a suburban neighborhood. The film structure allows it to balance humor, tension, and emotion seamlessly, making it both entertaining and memorable. Additionally, the storytelling pays attention to small details that enhance the narrative's charm. Kevin's resourcefulness, his interaction with neighbors, and his clever use of household items create a sense of ingenuity and playfulness that drives the plot forward. The burglars, while menacing, are also comically inept, and their repeated failures against Kevin's traps add a rhythm to the narrative that keeps audiences engaged. These recurring setups and payoffs make the film feel like a carefully choreographed game, with Kevin always one step ahead and viewers eagerly anticipating what he'll do next. Overall, Home Alone's narrative is a masterclass in balancing fun and tension, comedy and emotion, independence and family warmth. It takes a simple premise, a child left home alone, and turns it into a thrilling, hilarious, and heartwarming journey that audiences of all ages can enjoy. The way the story unfolds, the clever escalation of events, and the emotional undercurrents all work together to create a timeless holiday classic. Home Alone 1990 is a masterclass in character development, where humor, cleverness, and heart all come together to create characters that are instantly memorable and multidimensional. At the center of the story is Kevin McCallister, a young boy who starts off feeling frustrated, overlooked, and slightly misunderstood in the chaos of his large family. Kevin is not just a mischievous child. He is a highly relatable character whose emotions and reactions set the stage for everything that follows. From the very first scenes, we see him dealing with siblings who annoy him, parents who don't seem to listen, and the whirlwind of holiday preparation that makes him feel small and invisible. These early moments establish Kevin's personality. He's witty, imaginative, resourceful, and bold, but underneath it all, he is a child yearning for attention, respect, and independence. This duality, funny, clever, yet emotionally sensitive, makes him instantly endearing to the audience. Once Kevin is left home alone, his character begins a fascinating journey of growth and transformation. Suddenly, he is thrust into a world where he must rely entirely on himself, and the film brilliantly uses this scenario to explore Kevin's ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. Left without adult supervision, he transforms his frustration and boredom into creativity, turning ordinary household items into tools for adventure and defense. From turning the staircase into a booby-trapped gauntlet to rigging paint cans and slippery floors, Kevin demonstrates problem-solving skills that are both highly inventive and comedic. Each trap not only entertains, but also reflects Kevin's developing strategic thinking and resourcefulness, showing that he is capable of taking control of situations far beyond his years. The narrative also allows us to see Kevin's emotional development alongside his practical ingenuity. As he faces the threat of the burglars, Harry and Marv, the film highlights Kevin's courage and determination. Each encounter with them pushes Kevin to think faster, act smarter, and handle high-pressure situations. At the same time, moments of loneliness and fear allow the audience to connect with his vulnerability. These scenes remind viewers that beneath the clever pranks and bold strategies, Kevin is still a young boy who misses his family and longs for their presence. His emotional growth is subtle but powerful. He learns the value of family, the importance of empathy, and the strength he possesses within himself. By the end of the film, Kevin has transitioned from a mischievous, somewhat spoiled child into a brave, thoughtful, and independent individual who appreciates the bonds he shares with his loved ones. Harry and Marv, the burglars, serve as the perfect contrast to Kevin. While they remain largely static in terms of growth, their personalities are richly defined, making them memorable foils. Harry is sharp, impatient, and often exasperated, while Marv is clumsy, gullible, and comically naive. Their dynamic is hilarious because they are always at odds with each other, and their failures against Kevin's traps reveal their incompetence in amusing ways. The repeated escalation of their encounters with Kevin not only provides comic relief, but also highlights his intelligence, courage, and creativity. The burglar's persistence and frustration make Kevin's victories all the more satisfying and emphasize his growth in resourcefulness and confidence. Kevin's interactions with secondary characters also enhance his character development. One of the most notable is his relationship with Old Man Marley, the seemingly scary neighbor. At first, Kevin is wary of him, reflecting a typical child's fear of the unknown, but over time, he learns that Marley is kind and wise, offering guidance and comfort. This subplot adds depth to Kevin's emotional journey, teaching him about trust, understanding, and empathy. Similarly, his relationship with his family, though largely absent for the majority of the film, is central to his emotional arc. Kevin's longing for connection, his imaginative interactions with the absent family members, and his excitement when they finally return underscore the theme of family love and togetherness, giving the narrative emotional weight beyond the comedic antics. Even minor characters contribute meaningfully to the story and Kevin's growth. The chaotic siblings, oblivious parents, and even the clueless delivery men reinforce Kevin's independence by highlighting the absence of adult guidance. They act as catalysts, pushing Kevin into situations that demand ingenuity, bravery, and emotional intelligence. Each interaction, no matter how small, contributes to his journey from a clever but overlooked child to a confident, capable, and emotionally aware protagonist. The brilliance of Home Alone lies in the careful balance between comedy and character depth. Kevin is funny, inventive, and mischievous, but his humor never overshadows his emotional development. Harry and Marv are comically exaggerated, yet their interactions with Kevin enhance his cleverness and courage. Secondary characters enrich the story without slowing the pacing, adding layers to the narrative while keeping the audience fully engaged. Kevin's journey, from feeling powerless and invisible to becoming independent, courageous, and appreciative of his family, provides the emotional backbone of the film, while the burglars and other characters inject tension, comedy, and charm. In the end, the character development in Home Alone 1990 is what makes the story timeless. Kevin McCallister's growth, combined with the memorable personalities of Harry, Marv, and the supporting cast, creates a world that is both entertaining and emotionally resonant. The characters' arcs, relationships, and quirks work together to shape a story that balances clever humor with genuine heart, ensuring that audiences not only laugh at the pranks and chaos, but also care deeply about the people experiencing them. Home Alone 1990 is not just a classic because of its clever writing or ingenious premise. It is also a showcase of extraordinary performances that bring the story to life in a way that feels effortless, natural, and endlessly entertaining. At the very center of the film is Macaulay Culkin as Kevin McCallister, a role that became iconic almost instantly. Culkin doesn't just play a clever and mischievous boy left home alone. He embodies Kevin. Every expression, gesture, and reaction is perfectly timed, making Kevin feel real, relatable, and full of personality. From his frustrated looks at his chaotic family to his gleeful enjoyment of freedom and his intense focus when outsmarting the burglars, Culkin strikes a remarkable balance between humor and emotional depth. He effortlessly conveys Kevin's independence, ingenuity, vulnerability, and occasional loneliness, creating a multidimensional character who grows on the audience with every scene. His timing in physical comedy, whether dodging danger or setting up one of his elaborate traps, is impeccable and contributes greatly to the film's charm. The brilliance of Home Alone is amplified by the comedic mastery of the supporting actors, particularly Joe Pesci as Harry and Daniel Stern as Marv. Pesci plays Harry as the short-tempered, scheming, and slightly menacing leader of the burglars, while Stern's Marv is the lovable, clumsy, and often bewildered sidekick. The dynamic between the two is pure comedy gold, built on contrast, timing, and impeccable physical performance. Each pratfall, scream, and exaggerated reaction is executed flawlessly, making their repeated failures at outsmarting Kevin both hilarious and satisfying. The chemistry between Pesci and Stern gives the film a consistent comedic rhythm, as every plan, mistake, and confrontation with Kevin escalates in absurdity while maintaining believability. The duo's over-the-top expressions and antics make Kevin's cleverness feel earned, highlighting his ingenuity and bravery while keeping audiences laughing throughout. The ensemble cast further strengthens the performances in the film. Catherine O'Hara and John Hughes, as Kevin's parents, expertly convey the chaos, stress, and warmth of a large family during the holiday season. O'Hara's performance is particularly memorable for her blend of exasperation and care, portraying a mother juggling her family's demands with both humor and tenderness. Hurd compliments her with a grounded, relatable performance, making the McCallisters feel like a real family. The extended family members and siblings are also perfectly cast, adding layers of chaos and personality that help set the stage for Kevin's independence. Even the minor characters contribute effectively to the story. For example, the neighbor Marley brings emotional depth with his quiet, reassuring presence, giving the audience a tender counterpoint to the slapstick chaos unfolding elsewhere. One of the most remarkable aspects of the performances in Home Alone is how well the actors balance physical comedy with emotional believability. Culkin's reactions to swinging paint cans, slippery floors, and other elaborate traps are hilarious, yet his fear and quick thinking feel genuine. Pesci and Stern sell every hit, fall, and scream in a way that makes the audience laugh without breaking the reality of the story. Even in exaggerated comedic moments, the actors maintain a sense of tension and stakes that keeps viewers invested. The physicality, timing, and expressiveness of the cast turn what could have been simple slapstick into a complex performance that conveys both humor and story. The emotional resonance of the performances is equally important. Kevin's moments of fear, sadness, and longing for his family are portrayed with subtlety and heart, reminding the audience that beneath the comedy is a child navigating real emotions. Pesci and Stern, while largely comedic, inject enough menace to make Kevin's victories meaningful. O'Hara and Hurd's parental performances emphasize love, worry, and relief, giving weight to Kevin's journey and the family's eventual reunion. These layers of emotion, combined with the physical comedy, create a delicate balance that makes the performances truly memorable. Even minor interactions are enhanced by the actor's skill. Kevin's exchanges with Marley, his mischievous confrontations with the burglars, and the chaotic antics of his siblings all add to the story's charm and depth. The cast's ability to seamlessly shift between comedy, suspense, and tenderness gives the film a rhythm that feels lively, engaging, and cinematic. Every reaction, scream, grin, or eye roll adds to the world of Home Alone, making it feel immersive and entertaining from start to finish. Ultimately, the performances in Home Alone 1990 are a key reason the film has remained timeless. Macaulay Culkin's brilliance as Kevin, Pesci, and Stern's comedic genius, the warmth and authenticity of the McCallister family, and the memorable supporting characters all combine to create a tapestry of performances that elevate the story. The actors' energy, timing, and chemistry bring the pranks, suspense, and heartwarming moments to life, making every scene a joy to watch. The performances ensure that audiences don't just laugh at the traps or enjoy the chaos. They connect emotionally with the characters, care about their outcomes, and experience the story in a fully immersive and entertaining way. Home Alone 1990 is a masterclass in direction, and Chris Columbus is the driving force behind the film's enduring charm, humor, and emotional resonance. From the very opening moments, Columbus sets a tone that is chaotic, lively, and engaging, perfectly capturing the holiday rush in the McCallister household. Phones are ringing, relatives are arriving, kids are running around, and Kevin McCallister is struggling to assert himself amidst the chaos. Columbus handles this busy first act with precision, using dynamic camera work and carefully timed editing to immerse the audience in the family's frenzied energy. The direction allows viewers to feel the pressure, excitement, and humor of a real family preparing for a big trip, establishing both context and stakes for Kevin's eventual adventures. One of the hallmarks of Columbus's direction is his ability to use perspective and framing to enhance the audience's connection to the story. After Kevin is left home alone, the film increasingly adopts his point of view, allowing viewers to experience the house, the threats, and the opportunities through his eyes. Low-angle shots and eye-level framing emphasize Kevin's smallness in comparison to the world around him, making his inventive solutions to problems feel even more impressive. Wide shots showcase the full scope of his booby traps, letting the audience see every detail of the elaborate setups and the burglars' comical failures, while close-ups capture the subtle expressions of triumph, fear, or mischief that define Kevin's character. Columbus's meticulous attention to visual storytelling ensures that the physical comedy, suspense, and emotional beats all land perfectly, making each moment engaging and clear. Columbus's mastery of pacing is another critical element of the film's success. The narrative flows effortlessly between chaotic family moments, Kevin's playful adventures, and the escalating conflict with Harry and Marv. He balances rapid-fire slapstick with slower, more reflective sequences, giving audiences time to absorb both the humor and the emotional undertones. Kevin's moments of loneliness, reflection, or interaction with Old Man Marley provide quiet emotional beats that prevent the comedy from becoming overwhelming, while the action-packed sequences of trap setting and burglar encounters keep viewers on the edge of their seats. This careful modulation of pacing allows every gag, prank, and emotional revelation to hit with maximum impact. Columbus also makes the suburban home feel like a living, breathing stage for Kevin's antics. Through careful composition, lighting, and camera placement, the house becomes a character in its own right. The stairs, hallways, kitchen, and living spaces are all used creatively to stage inventive traps, comedic chases, and moments of suspense. The camera work ensures that every movement of the burglars and every reaction of Kevin is visible and perfectly timed, turning what could have been chaotic slapstick into a carefully orchestrated visual comedy. Even the smallest details, like Kevin peeking around corners or the burglars slipping on icy steps, are captured with clarity and humor, enhancing the audience's enjoyment. Tone and mood are shaped with remarkable consistency. Columbus expertly blends humor, suspense, and tenderness, allowing the film to shift seamlessly between laugh-out-loud comedy and emotional warmth. The burglars' exaggerated misfortunes are hilarious, but never undermine the tension of Kevin's predicament, and moments of introspection or fear are handled with sensitivity, giving the story emotional depth. The direction ensures that the audience invests not just in the jokes and gags, but also in Kevin's journey as a character, making his triumphs more satisfying and his fears more relatable. Sound and music are integrated with Columbus's visual and narrative choices to heighten the film's impact. John Williams's iconic score is timed perfectly with the action and comedic beats, emphasizing key moments, amplifying tension, and enhancing emotional resonance. Columbus's direction allows the music to complement the pacing and framing, creating a fully immersive experience where visual comedy, performance, and sound all work in harmony. Columbus's stylistic choices extend to camera movement and shot composition that enhance both suspense and comedy. Slow zooms, tracking shots, and well-timed cutaways highlight Kevin's cleverness, the burglar's clumsiness, and the spatial relationships within the house, making the action easy to follow and consistently entertaining. The visual rhythm he establishes keeps audiences engaged throughout the film, whether they are watching a booby trap unfold, a chase through the house, or a quiet moment of reflection. Overall, Chris Columbus's direction transforms Home Alone from a simple premise into a cinematic experience filled with energy, humor, and heart. His vision shapes every element of the film: the performances, pacing, framing, tone, and spatial dynamics of the house into a cohesive whole that is both fun and emotionally resonant. The direction ensures that the audience experiences Kevin's world as fully as possible, from the chaotic family scenes to the suspenseful and inventive trap sequences, and ultimately to the emotional reunion at the end. Every stylistic choice, from camera placement to timing, contributes to a sense of immersion, making the film feel lively, cinematic, and endlessly entertaining. Columbus's direction not only elevates the comedy, but also ensures that the story's emotional core shines through, creating a film that has remained beloved for decades. Home Alone 1990 is a film where cinematography does far more than simply capture the action. It actively shapes the story, the humor, and the emotional depth, making every scene visually engaging and full of personality. The cinematography, handled by Julio Macat, plays a vital role in defining the energy, mood, and immersive quality of the film, making Kevin McCallister's adventures feel larger than life, while keeping the story relatable and visually playful. From the opening chaotic scenes of the McCallister household, the camera work mirrors the sense of busy holiday madness. Wide shots capture the sprawling house, the hustle of the family getting ready for Paris, and the confusion of kids running in multiple directions. These sweeping shots are paired with medium shots and close-ups that focus on Kevin's expressions of frustration, bewilderment, or sly plotting, immediately connecting the audience with his perspective and establishing him as the central point of engagement. One of the most effective uses of cinematography in the film is the way it emphasizes Kevin's point of view once he is left home alone. Eye-level shots, low angles, and strategic framing make the house appear much larger, almost like an adventure playground or an obstacle course. Kevin's smallness within the vast home is amplified, emphasizing the challenge he faces and showcasing his resourcefulness. Every hallway, staircase, and room becomes a stage for comedy, suspense, and clever problem-solving, and the camera ensures that the audience experiences each moment with the same sense of anticipation and excitement as Kevin. These perspective-driven shots immerse the audience fully, allowing them to feel both the thrill of freedom and the tension of impending danger when Harry and Marv are nearby. Lighting in Home Alone is carefully designed to support both mood and storytelling. During daytime sequences, the warm, soft lighting creates a cozy, inviting atmosphere that underscores the comfort of the family home and the holiday season. The house is bathed in golden hues that feel natural and nostalgic, making Kevin's playground of independence feel lively and cheerful. Nighttime sequences, on the other hand, use shadows, directional lighting, and slightly cooler tones to build suspense and tension, particularly during scenes where the burglars are sneaking around. These lighting contrasts effectively guide the audience's emotions, balancing humor with a subtle edge of danger and making Kevin's solo adventure feel both thrilling and visually interesting. Framing and camera composition are used with remarkable precision to enhance the storytelling, especially in the film's intricate trap sequences. Wide-angle shots are often employed to show the full scope of Kevin's traps and the burglars' movements, allowing the audience to appreciate the creativity and complexity of each setup. Mid-shots and close-ups are reserved for reactions, capturing the comedic timing, exaggerated expressions, and physicality of Pesci and Stern as they tumble, slip, and shriek in response to Kevin's clever devices. The camera never loses sight of the spatial relationships in the house, which is crucial for both comedy and suspense, as audiences can follow every trap, misstep, and escape attempt with clarity and anticipation. Some visually striking moments stand out as masterful examples of cinematography at work. The scene where Kevin slides down the icy staircase, framed to emphasize the speed, impact, and risk, combines physical comedy with kinetic energy in a visually satisfying way. Another memorable sequence is the climactic confrontation with the burglars, which uses multiple angles, tracking shots, and well-timed zooms to heighten the comedy and showcase Kevin's ingenuity. The cinematography ensures that every swinging paint can, falling Christmas ornament, and slapstick mishap is captured perfectly, maximizing both humor and tension. Even in sequences that could have felt chaotic, the framing and composition maintain clarity, making the action readable and visually engaging. The cinematography also plays a significant role in the film's emotional moments. Intimate scenes, such as Kevin reflecting alone at night or bonding with Old Man Marley, are lit softly and framed closely to convey warmth, vulnerability, and connection. Slow camera movements and thoughtful composition in these quieter moments provide contrast to the fast-paced, high-energy trap sequences, allowing the audience to connect emotionally with Kevin and reinforcing the film's underlying themes of family, courage, and empathy. Additionally, the cinematography works seamlessly with Chris Columbus's direction and John Williams's iconic score. The timing of camera movements, angles, and lighting cues complements the music, enhancing comedic beats, suspenseful moments, and tender emotional arcs. This integration of visual and auditory storytelling amplifies the film's impact, making every scene feel dynamic, immersive, and cinematic. The playful camera work, combined with carefully crafted lighting and framing, ensures that Home Alone is visually engaging, whether it's a simple exploration of the house, a heartwarming family moment, or a chaotic trap-filled showdown. Ultimately, the cinematography in Home Alone 1990 transforms ordinary spaces and simple scenarios into visually captivating, emotionally resonant, and humor-filled sequences. Julio Mackett's framing, angles, and lighting bring Kevin's perspective to life, make the traps exciting and understandable, and balance comedy with suspense and emotion. The cinematography doesn't just capture the story, it enhances it, guiding the audience's attention, shaping the mood, and amplifying both laughter and heart. Every visual choice, from wide establishing shots to intimate close-ups, contributes to the film's enduring charm, making Kevin's solo adventure a cinematic experience that remains vibrant, fun, and engaging decades after its release. Home Alone 1990 is a film that demonstrates the art of editing and pacing at its finest, and the way Raja Gosnell's work complements Chris Columbus's direction ensures that every moment, whether chaotic, comedic, or emotional, lands perfectly with the audience. From the very beginning, the editing establishes a sense of organized chaos that mirrors the McCallister household's holiday frenzy. Wide establishing shots show the scale of the sprawling home and the flurry of activity as family members rush to prepare for their trip. Intercutting between rooms, siblings, parents, and Kevin himself, the cuts are rapid but never confusing, instantly immersing the audience in the energetic, high-stakes environment of a family under pressure. Quick reaction shots of Kevin, whether frustrated by his siblings or plotting small rebellions, are seamlessly interwoven, allowing viewers to connect with his perspective while keeping the story moving at a brisk, engaging pace. Once Kevin is left home alone, the film's editing shifts into a rhythm that balances suspense, humor, and narrative clarity. The sequences of Kevin exploring the house, setting traps, and interacting with Harry and Marv are tightly constructed. Wide shots establish spatial relationships within the house, showing the audience the layout and the scale of Kevin's traps. Mid-shots capture the execution of each clever mechanism, while close-ups highlight the burglars' over-the-top reactions, giving the audience both clarity and comedic satisfaction. The timing of each cut is crucial. Paint cans swinging down staircases, slippery floors, and tumbling burglars are framed and edited so that each gag hits with maximum impact, allowing viewers to follow the action while laughing at every escalating mishap. Gosnell's editing ensures that even in moments of fast-paced slapstick, nothing becomes visually chaotic or confusing. The pacing of the film is meticulously calibrated to maintain engagement while allowing room for emotional depth. Fast, energetic sequences dominate the first act, reflecting the chaos of the McCallister household and Kevin's initial frustration. These moments contrast beautifully with slower, quieter beats once Kevin is alone. Shots linger on Kevin enjoying simple pleasures, like sitting in front of the Christmas tree or celebrating his newfound freedom, providing the audience with moments of reflection and insight into his character. Similarly, the interactions with Old Man Marley are given breathing room with longer, more contemplative takes, emphasizing the emotional resonance of Kevin's journey. By carefully alternating between rapid comedy and reflective sequences, the editing keeps viewers emotionally invested while maintaining a dynamic rhythm that never feels stale. Transitions between scenes are executed with a fluidity that enhances storytelling. The film moves seamlessly from chaotic family preparations to Kevin's realization that he is home alone, and then into his inventive exploration of the house. Even the climactic trap sequences are intercut with shots of the burglars scheming, Kevin preparing, and his reactions to each mishap, building tension while sustaining comedy. The editing ensures that the audience is never lost in the multiple threads of action. Instead, each plotline and gag is clearly visible, engaging, and satisfying. The rhythm of cuts and scene changes also serves to heighten anticipation, particularly during moments when the burglars are sneaking through the house or navigating Kevin's increasingly complex traps. The interplay between editing and comedic timing cannot be overstated. Home Alone thrives on physical comedy, and Gosnell's choices in when to cut, how long to linger on a reaction, and how to juxtapose Kevin's cleverness with the burglar's misfortune are essential to the film's humor. For example, the repeated paint sequence is edited so that every swing, every impact, and every shriek is visible and timed for maximum effect. Similarly, the icy steps, falling ornaments, and booby-trapped doorknobs are all cut in a rhythm that emphasizes the absurdity of the physical comedy without overwhelming the viewer. These meticulously timed sequences create a perfect blend of anticipation, chaos, and laughter, ensuring that even the most elaborate gags feel coherent and cinematic. Moreover, the editing contributes to the suspense and stakes of the story. While the film is primarily comedic, the carefully constructed rhythm of cuts allows the audience to feel the tension of Kevin defending his home. Scenes are intercut between Kevin's preparations, the burglars' approach, and their increasingly clumsy efforts to break in. This back-and-forth pacing keeps viewers engaged, alternating between anticipation, humor, and relief as traps are sprung and plans fail spectacularly. The editing gives the audience time to absorb each beat, creating a sense of satisfaction and involvement in Kevin's clever strategies. The emotional rhythm of the film is enhanced by the editing as well. Moments of Kevin's loneliness, reflection, and connection with Marley are given space and a slower tempo, allowing the audience to feel the depth of his experience. These sequences contrast with the high-energy antics of the trap-filled encounters, creating a dynamic ebb and flow that keeps the audience emotionally and visually engaged. The pacing ensures that comedic peaks are punctuated with moments of heart, balancing laughter with emotional resonance, and allowing Kevin's growth and independence to feel meaningful. Even small editorial decisions contribute to the storytelling. The timing of reaction shots, the length of pauses before a gag unfolds, and the rhythm of dialogue delivery are all carefully calibrated to maintain a seamless flow. Whether it's the chaotic family morning, Kevin setting up traps, or the burglars' elaborate failures, every cut is purposeful, enhancing both clarity and entertainment value. The editing maintains spatial logic, comedic timing, and narrative clarity, all while keeping the audience emotionally invested in Kevin's journey from a mischievous child to a clever, independent problem solver. In short, the editing and pacing of Home Alone 1990 are instrumental in creating the film's unique rhythm, energy, and charm. Every cut, transition, and timing choice serves a purpose, whether to heighten humor, build suspense, or evoke emotion. The film flows seamlessly between chaos, comedy, and tenderness, keeping audiences engaged and entertained throughout. Gosnell's editing ensures that each gag, trap, and emotional beat lands perfectly, making Home Alone a cinematic experience that feels both tightly constructed and effortlessly fun. Home Alone 1990 is not just a visual and narrative delight. It is also an auditory masterpiece, largely due to the genius of John Williams, whose score elevates the film from a simple comedy to a fully immersive cinematic experience. From the opening sequence, Williams establishes a musical language that mirrors the chaos, energy, and warmth of the McCallister household. The frenzied activity of a large family preparing for a Christmas trip is accentuated by a lively orchestral arrangement, where strings, woodwinds, and playful percussion interact almost as if they are part of the bustling environment. The music anticipates the action and reacts to the characters' movements, making it feel like a participant in the storytelling rather than a background element. Kevin's frustrated reactions, siblings dashing around, and parents attempting to maintain order all gain an extra layer of humor and urgency through Williams's clever use of tempo, rhythm, and instrumentation. One of the hallmarks of the Home Alone soundtrack is the recurring motif, "Somewhere in My Memory," which serves as an emotional through line for the film. This melody is both nostalgic and heartwarming, instantly evoking the spirit of Christmas. Williams uses this theme in multiple arrangements, from soft, delicate piano versions during intimate moments to full orchestral swells during triumphant or joyful sequences. The motif functions as an emotional anchor, reminding the audience of the film's heart beneath all the slapstick chaos. When Kevin celebrates his freedom, faces moments of loneliness, or experiences a touching interaction with Old Man Marley, subtle variations of this motif underscore the emotional nuances without ever feeling intrusive, balancing humor and sentiment in perfect harmony. Williams's score also shines in its timing and interaction with the film's physical comedy. The trap sequences, which form the backbone of Home Alone's humor, are supported by music that punctuates each swing of a paint can, slip on icy stairs, or collision with an object. Fast, staccato strings, playful woodwinds, and sharp brass cues emphasize the burglar's clumsiness, while rhythmically timed orchestral flourishes mirror Kevin's clever movements. The editing and score work hand in hand, creating a synchronized comedic rhythm that makes each gag land with precision. Silence is used just as effectively. Moments of tension, such as Harry and Marv sneaking through the house, are occasionally unaccompanied by music, amplifying suspense. When the score returns with a burst of music at the exact moment a trap is sprung, the impact is heightened, producing laughter and surprise simultaneously. The soundtrack also defines the film's festive atmosphere. Chimes, bells, and other holiday-inspired instrumentation permeate many sequences, subtly reminding the audience that the story takes place during Christmas. These musical cues enhance the whimsy of Kevin's adventures, the charm of the McCallister home, and the magical quality of childhood imagination. The music transforms ordinary spaces into playful, cinematic playgrounds, where every hallway, staircase, and room feels alive. Even scenes without traps or slapstick humor benefit from this festive, lively musical identity, creating a sense of cohesion and immersion throughout the film. The score's versatility is remarkable. Williams seamlessly transitions between exuberant comedy, suspenseful anticipation, and heartfelt emotion, often within a single scene. For example, during the climactic showdown with the burglars, the music alternates between playful, mischievous cues as traps are sprung and suspenseful, anticipatory notes as the burglars approach Kevin's strategically prepared defenses. This duality allows the audience to simultaneously experience tension and humor, making the sequence both thrilling and hilarious. In quieter sequences, such as Kevin reflecting alone on the holiday or bonding with Marley, the score shifts to soft strings, gentle piano, and subtle woodwinds, emphasizing emotional depth without slowing the narrative flow. Williams's musical adaptability ensures that the audience is always engaged, whether laughing, on edge, or touched by sentiment. Sound design also works in harmony with the score, creating an auditory tapestry that enhances the storytelling. The clang of paint cans, the creak of doors, the slap of falling objects, and the slips on icy surfaces are timed alongside musical cues to maximize comedic impact. The music and sound effects complement each other, reinforcing both visual humor and narrative clarity. Every musical accent, pause, and crescendo is designed to support Kevin's cleverness, the burglar's misfortune, and the audience's emotional response. The genius of Williams's score lies not just in its melody or orchestration, but in how it guides the audience through the emotional and comedic rhythm of the film. The recurring motifs, playful cues, suspenseful flourishes, and tender arrangements create a soundscape that enhances every facet of the story, from the chaos of family preparations to the excitement of booby trap chases and the emotional resonance of Kevin's growth and eventual reunion with his family. The music never overpowers the narrative. It complements it, shaping mood, timing, and atmosphere in a way that feels organic and engaging. In short, the soundtrack and score of Home Alone 1990 are indispensable to the film's identity. John Williams's compositions amplify comedy, tension, and heart simultaneously, turning Kevin's solo adventures into a cinematic experience that is visually, emotionally, and sonically rich. Every motif, cue, and pause is carefully crafted to heighten laughter, suspense, and sentiment, ensuring that the film remains as engaging, magical, and unforgettable decades after its release. Home Alone 1990 might wear the badge of a slapstick holiday comedy, but underneath the pink and gags and icy stares, there's a rich tangle of themes that give the film surprising emotional weight and replay value. At its heart is family and belonging. The opening chaos of the McCallister household sets up Kevin's marginalization and accidental exile, and the whole film becomes a mini-quest that teaches him and reminds the audience what home actually means. That theme is simple but powerful. Independence is thrilling, but absence clarifies attachment. Kevin's initial joy at freedom slowly gives way to loneliness and a deeper appreciation for the people he once took for granted. Closely tied to that is the coming-of-age strand. Kevin's timeline is a compact lesson in responsibility and resourcefulness, where childhood imagination translates into practical problem-solving. His traps aren't just comic set pieces. They're a child's version of strategy, courage, and boundary setting. A small boy claiming agency in a world that usually tells him to sit down and be quiet. The film also explores judgment and empathy through the Marley subplot. The scary rumor about the neighbor collapses when Kevin learns Marley's backstory, turning a creepy urban legend figure into a figure of redemption and quiet wisdom. That reversal isn't just a feel-good twist. It's a message about looking past appearances, about community, and the healing power of a simple human connection. There's a moral texture to the burglars, too. Harry and Marv are cartoonishly evil, which lets the movie play with vigilante justice without getting truly dark, but their repeated humiliation raises subtle questions about the ethics of violence, even in comedy. The film neutralizes that discomfort by stylizing pain into pratfall and by rooting Kevin's actions in defense, protection, and cleverness rather than malice. Another theme is the tension between holiday commercialism and emotional warmth. The frantic prep for a glamorous trip to Paris contrasts with the small, quiet things that mean more. A phone call, a check-in from a neighbor, the comfort of returning to a family dinner, and John Williams's nostalgic motifs keep pulling the audience back to memory and heart over spectacle. Community matters as well. The film shows how neighbors, even if distant or misjudged, become the scaffolding that helps a child through crisis, suggesting that modern suburban life's real value is the people in it, not the manic schedule. There's also a sly commentary on parenting and modern chaos. The movie doesn't pretend the adults are perfect. Their human fallibility causes the central problem, and that imperfection is treated with both humor and real consequence. The balance of comedy and tenderness makes the themes feel earned rather than forced. Emotional beats, Kevin's fear at night, his quiet moments in front of the tree, his talk with Marley, are given breathing room, so the movie never reduces itself to a series of gags with a tacked-on moral. Instead, humor and heart braid together. The same sequence that elicits laughter with a booby trap also reinforces Kevin's determination and vulnerability. Finally, Home Alone invites a thought that lingers after the credits. Childhood is powerful, imaginative, and sometimes the crucible where courage is forged. The movie celebrates that without sentimentality, asking viewers to remember that home is both a place and a network of people who matter. The result is a picture that plays like a comic caper on the surface but leaves a quieter, more thoughtful echo about family, empathy, and the little acts that make a house into a home. Home Alone 1990 may not be a visual effects-driven blockbuster, but what it accomplishes with its practical techniques and clever staging is nothing short of brilliant. This film thrives on old-school craftsmanship, relying on timing, precision, and physicality rather than heavy CGI. Since the movie came out at a time when computer-generated imagery was still in its infancy, every stunt, every fall, every trap, and every chaotic collision had to be carefully designed and executed in camera. That decision is one of the key reasons why Home Alone feels so authentic even today. The visual gags don't look like special effects. They feel like real accidents unfolding before your eyes, which makes them twice as funny and infinitely more satisfying to watch. Take the infamous booby trap sequences, for example. The swinging paint cans, the icy front steps, the heated doorknob, the nail on the staircase, and the collapsing shelves weren't the product of digital animation. They were meticulously planned with stunt coordinators, rigging teams, and set designers working in harmony. Every gag was tested repeatedly to ensure maximum comedic impact while keeping the actors safe. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, who played Harry and Marv, had stunt doubles for the truly dangerous sequences, but they also performed many of their own falls and reactions, adding a genuine sense of chaos and pain to their performances. That realism is what makes the traps so memorable. When Marv steps barefoot on a shattered ornament or Harry takes a blowtorch to the scalp, it's not CGI fire or digital glass. It's practical pyrotechnics and sugar glass props combined with perfectly timed editing that sells the illusion. The film's cleverness also lies in how it uses visual effects invisibly. Rather than drawing attention to them, the production integrates small enhancements so seamlessly that most viewers never notice. In the tarantula on the face scene, for example, there's no animatronic spider, no CGI, no composited trick shots. The spider was real, carefully handled by professionals to ensure safety. The camera angles were deliberately chosen to capture Daniel Stern's genuine terror while keeping both him and the spider unharmed. Similarly, whenever something appears dangerous, like heavy objects crashing or actors falling from heights, the effect is often achieved through carefully framed shots, breakaway props, hidden padding, and quick cuts that disguise the transition between stunt performers and actors. One of the film's greatest strengths is how it balances exaggeration and believability. The injuries Harry and Marv sustain are outrageously over the top, yet the effects are grounded enough that you believe these traps could exist and cause real damage. The audience winces instinctively, but can't help laughing, and that's because the visual execution bridges the gap between cartoon physics and real-world impact. Unlike modern CGI-heavy comedies where objects move unnaturally or reactions feel disconnected, Home Alone keeps the stakes tangible. When the burglars slip on ice, they actually hit the ground. When a paint can smashes into a face, there's a weighted prop swinging toward a stuntman. When the blowtorch ignites Harry's hat, real flames are controlled with precision. These physical effects make the comedy timeless and give it a durability that CGI-dependent movies often lack. Even subtle post-production work contributes to the illusion without ever overpowering it. There's minimal optical compositing, mostly used to hide safety harnesses, wires, or crew rigs, but it's so understated that audiences never question what they're seeing. This restraint is what keeps Home Alone visually believable more than 3 decades later. Many films from the same era that leaned heavily on early CGI now look dated, but Home Alone's reliance on tactile, physical effects makes it as entertaining and visually effective today as it was in 1990. The result is a film where the visual effects don't scream for attention. They serve the story, the comedy, and the characters. Everything, from the booby traps to the household chaos, feels handmade and grounded in reality, and that gives the movie its unique charm. Kevin's elaborate defenses seem plausible because the audience can imagine setting them up themselves, and the burglars' spectacular defeats land harder because the action looks and feels authentic. The practical effects, combined with perfect comedic timing and sharp editing, create a sense of immersion that digital-heavy techniques often struggle to replicate. One of the most underrated but powerful aspects of Home Alone is how the set design and locations shape the entire storytelling experience. The McCallister house isn't just a setting, it's practically a living, breathing character in the movie. Every hallway, staircase, room, and prop has been deliberately chosen to create both visual warmth and practical function for the chaos that unfolds. From the very first scene, you're introduced to a home that feels busy, crowded, and alive, a place where multiple generations, kids of different ages, and adults with clashing personalities coexist under one roof. There's clutter on countertops, holiday decorations spilling everywhere, suitcases stacked awkwardly, and toys scattered across floors. This carefully orchestrated mess isn't accidental. It makes the house feel real and relatable, pulling you into the everyday chaos of a big family preparing for vacation. That authenticity makes Kevin's eventual isolation feel more impactful, because when the noise disappears, the silence of the house becomes another character in the story, amplifying both his fear and his freedom. The layout of the house itself plays a crucial narrative role. It's practically designed for Kevin's booby traps later in the movie, and you can sense the production designers intentionally mapped out the space to maximize comedic timing. Long hallways, wide staircases, open rooms, and hidden corners give Kevin the flexibility to maneuver, set up traps, and stay one step ahead of the wet bandits. The staircase, in particular, is iconic, not just as a visual centerpiece, but as a stage for multiple gags, from Kevin sledding down it straight out the front door to paint cans swinging violently into Harry and Marv's faces. Every structural choice in the house directly feeds into the choreography of the traps and slapstick humor, creating a sense that the physical space is built to enable the story rather than simply house it. The props within the house are equally clever. Ordinary household items like paint cans, Christmas ornaments, irons, BB guns, doorknobs, and kitchen tools are transformed into comedic weapons of defense. There's something inherently funny and satisfying about Kevin repurposing everyday objects into tools for survival, and the set dressing ensures the items feel naturally placed rather than staged for convenience. This realism enhances the believability of the traps while making the audience admire Kevin's creativity. You almost feel like you could walk into your own home and recreate his defense system, which deepens the movie's charm and relatability. Outside the house, the locations continue to carry narrative weight. The snowy Chicago suburbs are carefully chosen to reflect a warm, nostalgic, almost postcard-perfect holiday aesthetic, but there's a clever duality here. In the daytime, the quiet streets look inviting and peaceful, almost idyllic, kids sledding, neighbors chatting, and Christmas decorations twinkling. But at night, those same streets take on a different energy. The shadows, silence, and cold amplify Kevin's loneliness and vulnerability, making the moments when he is to confront the wet bandits or venture outside even more suspenseful. It's a brilliant contrast between comfort and danger that deepens the emotional tone of the story. Secondary locations also add richness and authenticity to the film's world. The grocery store sequence where Kevin nervously navigates shopping alone captures both comedy and heart, highlighting his growing independence in a setting most kids would find intimidating. The church, beautifully lit and serene, serves as one of the film's emotional anchors, providing Kevin's turning point in maturity while also giving depth to old man Marley's character. Marley's house itself, with its darker tones, minimal lighting, and subtle coldness, perfectly reflects his initial reputation as the neighborhood's scary old man. Through design, we understand his isolation before his redemption ever arrives. The airport chaos, bustling streets, and small-town shops all work seamlessly to immerse the audience in a believable suburban environment while also helping the story breathe outside the confines of the house. The lighting choices throughout the film also play an important role in enhancing the impact of the set design and locations. Inside the McCallister home, warm tones dominate, golds, reds, and soft yellows, creating a cozy, nostalgic holiday atmosphere. This contrasts sharply with the cool blues and grays of the snowy outdoors, heightening tension whenever Kevin steps into the unfamiliar world beyond his home's walls. During the booby trap sequences, lighting is used to guide the audience's attention, subtly highlighting objects, spaces, and characters without feeling forced. Even the flickering Christmas lights and glowing tree ornaments contribute to the holiday magic while emphasizing Kevin's clever use of his environment. The production design also succeeds in balancing realism with cinematic functionality. While the McCallister house feels authentic, it was deliberately constructed to make every chase, stunt, and trap visually clear and physically believable on camera. Stair widths, landing spaces, and door positions were carefully measured so the wet bandits' mishaps would look natural rather than staged, giving the slapstick comedy a sense of spontaneity. It's a perfect marriage between design and storytelling, where the audience never feels manipulated even though the environment has been meticulously engineered to deliver both laughs and suspense. Lastly, the holiday aesthetic ties everything together. The vibrant garlands, sparkling lights, ornate ornaments, and meticulously chosen Christmas decor make the entire film visually enchanting. They enhance the festive mood, reinforce the family theme, and make the house feel alive, before Kevin is left alone to rediscover its magic on his own terms. The warm interiors contrast beautifully with the cold, empty streets, symbolizing Kevin's journey from fear and abandonment toward confidence and belonging. Without this layered, thoughtful approach to set design and locations, Home Alone would lose much of its charm, emotional weight, and comedic brilliance. The dialogue and script of Home Alone 1990, written by the legendary John Hughes, are among the biggest reasons why this movie became an all-time classic. It's not just about what the characters say, it's about when they say it, how they say it, and perhaps most importantly, when the script decides to remain silent and let the visuals tell the story. Hughes crafts dialogue that feels organic and natural, filled with believable family banter, childish quips, sarcastic retorts, and comedic exchanges, yet underneath all that fun, there's an emotional undercurrent that carries depth and relatability. Every single line seems to serve a purpose, whether it's to build character, set up a joke, advance the plot, or layer the emotional stakes, making the writing tight and efficient without ever feeling forced or artificial. The first act of the movie is a perfect example of Hughes's genius for chaotic family dialogue. The McCallister household on the night before their big Paris trip is alive with overlapping conversations, playful arguments, teasing insults, and stressed-out parenting lines. Everyone is talking over each other, yet nothing feels staged. The dialogue captures the messy, noisy energy of a large family under pressure. Kevin's interactions with his siblings set the tone immediately. His exchanges with Buzz, in particular, are sharp and biting, full of childish insults and clever comebacks that make the rivalry feel real rather than scripted. When Kevin complains about feeling ignored and unwanted, the dialogue perfectly taps into childhood frustration, making him relatable to any kid who has ever felt overshadowed in a big family. One of the most iconic aspects of the dialogue is Kevin's clever, witty one-liners, which reveal his personality and resourcefulness. He's mischievous, sarcastic, and surprisingly sharp for an 8-year-old, and Hughes ensures that Kevin's words are just as memorable as his actions. Whether it's his mockery of his family, his improvised plans to outsmart the burglars, or his hilarious conversations with inanimate objects like mannequins and mirrors, Kevin's dialogue shows us that he's imaginative, independent, and resilient. The script gives him space to sound like a real kid, not overly polished or artificially cute, while still making his lines memorable enough to stick in the audience's minds decades later. And then there's the brilliance of the dialogue given to Harry and Marv, the bumbling wet bandits. Their conversations are short, snappy, and constantly undercut by frustration and failure, making them comedic gold. Marv's clueless optimism and Harry's fiery temper bounce off each other perfectly, creating some of the funniest exchanges in the movie. But what's most impressive is how their dialogue contrasts with Kevin's. While the burglars bicker and plan out loud, revealing their incompetence, Kevin often speaks to himself in moments of strategy, making us privy to his thought process without slowing down the pacing. This clever structuring of lines ensures that the audience always feels a step ahead of the villains, heightening both the tension and the comedy. Another layer of brilliance in the script comes from Old Man Marley's dialogue, which is the emotional counterbalance to all the chaos and comedy. His lines are soft, deliberate, and filled with unspoken weight. Unlike the rapid-fire exchanges of the McCallisters or the burglars, Marley's conversations have pauses, spaces where silence speaks as loudly as words. When he shares his estranged relationship with his son in the church, the dialogue is minimal but deeply heartfelt, relying on simplicity rather than overwrought speeches. It's in these moments that the script quietly shifts from pure comedy into something much more meaningful, showing how healing, forgiveness, and family love are at the core of the story. What truly makes this screenplay remarkable, however, is how Hughes uses dialogue not only to tell jokes but also to set up brilliant comedic payoffs. One of the most iconic examples is the fake gangster movie Angels with Filthy Souls, which Kevin plays to scare off the burglars and later uses again on the pizza delivery guy. The exaggerated, intentionally cheesy gangster lines, "Keep the change, you filthy animal," became instantly quotable because they blend seamlessly into the story while functioning as a recurring comedic weapon. These callbacks make the humor smarter, rewarding the audience for paying attention without ever feeling heavy-handed. And yet, Hughes knows when silence can be funnier and more powerful than words. During many of the slapstick sequences, especially the traps Kevin sets for Harry and Marv, the absence of dialogue lets the visuals and sound design carry the comedy. Every fall, every scream, every exaggerated reaction lands harder because the script doesn't clutter those moments with unnecessary lines. It's a perfect example of trust between the writer, director, and actors. The screenplay sets the foundation, but it also knows when to step aside and let the performances breathe. Beyond the comedy, the dialogue weaves in emotional beats with surprising subtlety. Kevin's gradual shift from feeling abandoned to learning responsibility is conveyed through small, understated exchanges rather than heavy exposition. Similarly, the brief but tender conversations between Kevin and his mother later in the film are poignant precisely because the script avoids melodrama. Instead of long speeches, we get short, heartfelt lines that feel real and grounded, allowing the emotions to flow naturally without forcing them. Ultimately, the Home Alone script is a masterclass in balance, balancing chaos with quiet, wit with warmth, and comedy with heart. The dialogue has just the right rhythm, fast and messy when the story demands energy, calm and tender when the emotions need room to breathe. It creates distinct voices for every character, from Kevin's sarcastic cleverness to Harry and Marv's comedic bickering to Marley's gentle wisdom, ensuring that no line feels interchangeable. The result is a screenplay that doesn't just tell a story, but brings the characters to life through their words, their silences, and the spaces in between. Home Alone thrives because it refuses to be boxed into one predictable genre lane. On the surface, it's marketed as a warm-hearted family holiday comedy, but beneath the wrapping paper, it borrows liberally from slapstick, action, thriller, heist, and even coming-of-age storytelling. That's part of its brilliance. The film blends tones and tropes from wildly different traditions, making it feel fresh, surprising, and endlessly rewatchable. The setup alone signals a genre sleight of hand. In most family films, an 8-year-old accidentally left home alone during the holidays would be the victim of circumstance, waiting for adults to save him. But here, Kevin McCallister flips the script entirely. He's not just surviving. He's orchestrating his own survival with wit, inventiveness, and a gleeful sense of rebellion. That power shift is rare in family comedies and instantly makes the movie stand out. Instead of being passive, Kevin becomes the architect of the plot, transforming from overlooked youngest sibling into a self-reliant strategist who literally redesigns his home into a fortress. This unexpected subversion energizes the audience because it redefines expectations. You think you're settling in for a cute holiday romp, but the film gradually pivots into an inventive miniature action thriller disguised as a kids' comedy. One of the film's most distinctive genre achievements is how it merges the structure of a heist or caper film with the energy of slapstick. At its core, Home Alone is about planning and counterplanning. The burglars, Harry and Marv, conduct reconnaissance, prepare their infiltration, and execute their big score, while Kevin, through sheer ingenuity, stages an elaborate counterattack using ordinary household objects. If you strip away the comedic tone, you'd find the DNA of a tense home invasion thriller, stakeouts, rising stakes, and a climactic confrontation, but the movie defangs that potential darkness by leaning into exaggerated comedy. Instead of being terrified by the danger, the audience laughs at the absurdity of paint cans swinging like medieval weapons, blowtorches scorching scalps, icy stairs sending grown men flying, and broken ornaments shredding bare feet. These are visual gags executed with meticulous timing, and yet they're staged with enough practical realism. The traps work in plausible, physics-bound ways that the comedy feels earned rather than cartoonish. It's a delicate balancing act. The movie creates genuine tension without ever tipping into genuine fear, keeping viewers thrilled but comfortable, a signature achievement in genre blending. What's particularly clever is how the burglars, Harry and Marv, are designed as genre foils rather than true threats. They're villains, but their characterization leans heavily into caricature. The self-proclaimed wet bandits are bungling, overconfident, and absurdly bad at their job. Joe Pesci's sharp, irritable Harry pairs perfectly with Daniel Stern's clumsy, wide-eyed Marv, and together they function like a live-action cartoon duo trapped inside a child's elaborate fantasy of triumph. By making the antagonists ridiculous rather than menacing, the film allows Kevin's triumph to feel joyous instead of dangerous, transforming potential violence into a showcase of comedic choreography. Every pratfall, burn, slip, and smack is calculated not to evoke pain but hilarity, a tonal decision that defines how the movie sidesteps darker genre territory. Without that tonal control, the film could have easily crossed into unsettling territory. After all, Kevin's traps are undeniably brutal, but because the movie frames the burglars as indestructible comic punching bags, it encourages the audience to cheer rather than cringe. Despite leaning on familiar holiday and family comedy tropes, Home Alone constantly finds ways to deepen or subvert them. Take the chaotic family who forgets their youngest child at home. In lesser films, this would simply be a clumsy setup for hijinks, but here, the script uses it to ground Kevin's emotional arc. Before the separation, Kevin's clashes with his family make him feel ignored and underestimated, so when he wakes up to an empty house, it becomes both a wish fulfillment and a test of independence. That duality gives the comedy weight. It isn't just about Kevin laying traps. It's about a boy discovering what he's capable of when pushed into an extraordinary situation. The scary neighbor trope is similarly flipped on its head. Old Man Marley, introduced as a sinister figure lurking on the block, evolves into one of the emotional anchors of the story, embodying themes of reconciliation and forgiveness. This ability to weave emotional beats into genre cliches keeps the film from feeling hollow or formulaic, rewarding viewers with unexpected depth alongside the spectacle. The pacing and structure mirror those of an action movie more than a typical holiday comedy. There's a deliberate escalation. Act 1 sets the emotional groundwork and separation. Act 2 builds suspense through reconnaissance and preparation, and Act 3 delivers an explosive, extended set-piece showdown between Kevin and the burglars. But unlike standard action films, the weapons are toys, ornaments, irons, and tarantulas, reinforcing the playful child's eye logic of the story. Kevin's house transforms into a battlefield, yet the staging avoids alienating audiences who might shy away from traditional action. By wrapping high-stakes choreography inside the warm aesthetic of a Christmas comedy, Home Alone delivers the adrenaline of a thriller without abandoning its cozy, comedic identity. The tension peaks without ever turning bleak, proving that high-energy genre storytelling doesn't have to sacrifice levity. The score by John Williams deserves special recognition in genre execution because it acts like a tonal guide. When the movie leans into whimsical mischief, the music sparkles with playful staccato notes. When suspense builds, the orchestration darkens just enough to create anticipation without unsettling younger viewers. And when the emotional beats land, particularly Kevin's reunion with his mother, the score swells with warmth and nostalgia. This seamless musical modulation reinforces the hybrid nature of the film's identity, smoothing the transitions between slapstick, suspense, and sentimentality, so the shifts never feel abrupt. Even the film's most controversial element, the extreme pain inflicted on the burglars, is part of a calculated genre strategy. By embracing cartoon physics and framing the violence within exaggerated, almost balletic choreography, the traps become set pieces of spectacle rather than sources of discomfort. This clever tonal framing lets the film indulge in action movie brutality without alienating families. A real-world burn, fall, or head injury would be horrifying, but Home Alone stylizes every injury to remove real-world stakes, effectively letting viewers enjoy cathartic, safe chaos. This choice is what allows the movie to straddle genres successfully. It borrows the excitement of physical confrontation while keeping the emotional register lighthearted. At its core, Home Alone succeeds because it innovates within familiar structures. It delivers the warmth, humor, and sentimentality audiences expect from a Christmas film but overlays them with heist mechanics, thriller suspense, and action comedy spectacle. Home Alone is often remembered as a festive, slapstick-heavy Christmas comedy, but beneath the surface, the film doubles as a surprisingly layered social and cultural time capsule, a movie that captures the anxieties, aspirations, and contradictions of late 20th century suburban America while sneaking in themes that still resonate today. On its surface, the story is simple. A boy accidentally left behind defends his home against two bumbling burglars. But every creative choice, from the set design to the dialogue, from Kevin's resourcefulness to the family's dysfunction, reflects broader cultural undercurrents about parenting, privilege, safety, independence, and the evolving dynamics of community and media. The beauty of Home Alone is that it never lectures its audience. Instead, its commentary hides behind clever humor and charming chaos, making the themes feel organic rather than forced. At the heart of the movie lies a critique of consumerism and holiday excess. The McCallisters' sprawling suburban mansion, overflowing with designer luggage, glittering decorations, and a Parisian Christmas vacation plan, presents a portrait of privilege that's played both straight and satirical. On one hand, the film celebrates the cozy ideal of the perfect American Christmas, complete with family gatherings, twinkling lights, and childhood wonder. On the other hand, it pokes fun at the frantic chaos created by wealth, travel, and commercial pressure, where the holiday spirit gets buried under schedules, flights, and obligations. Kevin's accidental abandonment can be read as symbolic of a broader cultural phenomenon. In chasing the perfect holiday, the McCallisters literally lose sight of what matters most, and the comedy stems from how this idealized vision of family togetherness is disrupted by their own obsession with extravagance. Then there's the deeper exploration of parenting, responsibility, and childhood agency. At the start, Kevin feels overlooked, infantilized, and misunderstood within a noisy, chaotic family dynamic where his voice is drowned out. His wish to be left alone acts as a kind of rebellious cry for autonomy, a feeling familiar to many children who grow up in bustling households. But when his wish is accidentally granted, the movie transforms into a coming-of-age story where Kevin is thrust into adulthood overnight. Suddenly, he's cooking his own meals, managing household chores, and defending his home from threats, not because someone told him to, but because necessity demands it. This shift subtly comments on the cultural idea of independence. In a society that prizes self-reliance, Home Alone frames Kevin's ingenuity and adaptability as a heroic journey, elevating a child's resourcefulness as something to celebrate rather than suppress. The Wet Bandits, Harry and Marv, bring in another layer of cultural commentary, particularly about class divisions and social stereotypes. Kevin's family represents a comfortably affluent suburban dream, while Harry and Marv, as petty criminals, embody the outsider threat often depicted in 1990s cinema, invaders from beyond the suburban bubble, bringing chaos into carefully controlled spaces. But the burglars are hardly intimidating. Their incompetence and slapstick injuries reduce them to comic foils rather than genuine villains. This contrast mirrors the way privilege and security shaped perceptions of safety at the time. Suburban families could feel untouchable, while outsiders became caricatures rather than complex figures. Yet Kevin's inventive traps, paired with the burglars' exaggerated pain, also bring up an interesting debate. Does cartoon violence trivialize harm, or is it simply cathartic? The film leans into comedic absurdity, but modern audiences often revisit those scenes with fresh eyes, noting just how much physical punishment Harry and Marv endure while still bouncing back for more chaos. One of the most poignant threads in the movie revolves around Old Man Marley, Kevin's initially feared neighbor who becomes a symbol of loneliness, regret, and reconciliation. Through Marley's arc, the film dives into themes of generational alienation, rumor, and redemption. The neighborhood kids' whispered horror stories paint him as a menacing figure, and Kevin's early fear mirrors a cultural instinct to distrust those who are different or isolated. But when Kevin finally talks to Marley, the monster becomes a man, a grieving father estranged from his family, longing for connection. This reversal not only softens the film's emotional core, but also quietly critiques social fragmentation, highlighting how easily we create narratives about others without understanding their truths. Marley's reconciliation with his family at the end mirrors Kevin's renewed appreciation for his own, tying together themes of forgiveness, empathy, and second chances. Media and mimicry also play a fascinating role in shaping Kevin's journey. One of the most iconic moments in the film, Kevin using a fake gangster movie to scare off the burglars, "Keep the change, you filthy animal," doubles as commentary on how entertainment informs identity and behavior, especially for children. Kevin's ability to weaponize pop culture, using recorded lines and sound cues to manipulate situations, reflects how deeply cinema and television permeated 1990s suburban life. This idea connects to a broader cultural conversation about media consumption and the blurring of fantasy and reality. Kevin doesn't just watch movies. He internalizes them, adapts them, and turns them into practical tools for survival. That playful subversion mirrors the audience's own relationship with Home Alone itself, a film that blends Hollywood tropes with everyday suburban relatability, creating a shared cultural language of nostalgia and empowerment. The movie also captures a specific moment in American identity, one rooted in suburban ideals, community boundaries, and institutional trust. Authority figures like the police are depicted as distant and somewhat ineffective. They're present but far from central in Kevin's rescue. Instead, Kevin himself takes charge, crafting elaborate solutions without relying on adults or formal systems. This isn't just comedic convenience. It reflects a broader cultural fantasy where individual cleverness and personal responsibility trump bureaucracy. Similarly, the McCallisters' neighborhood, with its wide streets, large homes, and apparent safety, reflects the suburban dreamscape of the era. Insulated from urban realities, idealized as a space where danger feels foreign and self-reliance is rewarded. In today's world of constant surveillance, hyper-connected households, and heightened parental caution, the very premise of Home Alone feels like a time capsule, capturing an era when kids could believably exist on their own without cell phones, GPS trackers, or 24/7 contact. Even gender roles and representations are worth unpacking here. While Mrs. McCallister shoulders the emotional weight of the panic, resourcefulness, and guilt over leaving Kevin behind, Mr. McCallister largely operates in the background, embodying a more detached and traditionally masculine role of financial provision rather than caregiving. Meanwhile, Kevin himself flips stereotypical expectations of masculinity on their head. He thrives not through brute force, but through intelligence, creativity, and emotional growth. All right, let's take this to the next level and make the audience engagement analysis even more immersive by expanding scene by scene, exploring emotional triggers, tension buildups, comedic peaks, nostalgic hooks, and cultural impact in extraordinary detail. This won't just explain why Home Alone resonates. It'll recreate the experience, showing exactly how the movie plays with audience emotions from start to finish. Get ready, because we're diving deep into every laugh, gasp, and heart-tugging moment the film delivers. From the very first chaotic scene in the McCallister household, the audience is pulled directly into the frenzy of a big family preparing for the holidays. It's noisy, messy, and stressful, and yet somehow it's hilarious, a dynamic instantly relatable to anyone who has ever experienced a loud, crowded family gathering. The camera weaves through running children, shouting parents, and flying pizza boxes, capturing the sheer madness of pre-travel panic. Audiences don't just watch this scene, they feel it. The noise overload mirrors the tension of trying to manage a house full of personalities, setting up a familiarity that hooks viewers right away. By the time Kevin and Buzz get into their infamous pizza fight, you're already invested because the environment feels so real, so lived in, so utterly chaotic that it mirrors real life. And then comes the pivotal argument between Kevin and his mom, the spark that ignites the entire plot. Kevin's frustration, his outburst, and his infamous wish, "I wish they would all just disappear," resonates with every kid who has ever felt ignored, while parents in the audience wince, knowing those words will carry weight later. The next emotional hook arrives the following morning when Kevin wakes up to find his wish granted, or so he thinks. There's something magical about this sequence, and audiences of every age feel the shift in tone. The quiet house, the confusion, the creeping realization, it all creates a curious mix of childhood fantasy and deep underlying tension. Kids in the audience cheer internally at the thought of having total freedom, eating candy for breakfast, watching forbidden movies, and sledding down staircases. But adults sense something Kevin doesn't: the danger lurking beneath the fantasy. That layered emotional experience, thrill for kids, unease for grown-ups, is exactly why Home Alone sustains engagement across generations. The pacing here is deliberate. The movie lets us bask in Kevin's newfound independence before subtly reminding us that he's still a vulnerable 8-year-old in a big world. Enter Harry and Marv, the wet bandits, the ultimate game changers for audience energy levels. From the moment they begin casing the neighborhood, tension builds as viewers start connecting the dots before Kevin does. This is where the film cleverly transforms from family dramedy into comedic thriller territory, shifting emotional gears to keep the audience hooked. When Kevin first overhears their plan to rob the McCallister house, you can feel the spike of anxiety ripple through viewers. Children especially begin identifying with Kevin's predicament, the idea of being small, alone, and having to outsmart dangerous adults. But the genius lies in the way the movie relieves this tension almost immediately with humor. Whether it's Harry slipping on ice, Marv's exaggerated facial expressions, or Kevin's ridiculous angels with filthy souls tape trick, each gag diffuses fear without undermining the stakes, creating this constant push and pull between laughter and suspense. The booby trap sequence in the third act is where audience engagement reaches its absolute peak. By this point, Kevin's transformation from scared kid to confident strategist is complete, and viewers are fully invested in his success. What makes this segment so effective isn't just the traps themselves, but the way the film builds anticipation before each one. We know something painful is coming. We've seen Kevin's setup, so the suspense simmers while we wait for the inevitable chaos to unfold. Then comes the payoff. Marv stepping barefoot on ornaments, Harry burning his scalp with a blowtorch, paint cans swinging like wrecking balls, and the audience collectively erupts. Kids laugh at the absurdity, teens cheer at Kevin's cleverness, and adults find themselves both amused and slightly horrified at the sheer brutality of it all. It's a rare cinematic magic trick. The violence is cartoonish enough to make us laugh, but visceral enough to make us wince, creating a shared, involuntary reaction that few films ever achieve. What's even more fascinating is how the movie doesn't let that comedic high linger too long. Immediately after the trap gauntlet, the emotional center of the film pulls us back in. When Kevin sits by the window, staring into the dark night, there's an unmistakable pang of loneliness that hits hard, especially for adult viewers who see past the gags to the heart of the story. Then comes his encounter with Old Man Marley in the church, which deepens the emotional resonance significantly. Audiences quiet down here, fully absorbed in a simple, heartfelt exchange about regret, family, and forgiveness. It's one of the rare moments where the film steps away from its larger-than-life antics and connects directly to universal themes of reconciliation and belonging. By layering this tenderness so close to the chaos, Home Alone keeps viewers emotionally agile, switching between extremes without losing momentum. The reunion scene at the end seals the emotional engagement in a way that feels cathartic and satisfying. As Kevin's mom bursts through the door, there's a collective sigh of relief from the audience, not just because he's safe, but because the emotional tension from the very start of the movie finally finds closure. Adults empathize with the parents' guilt and desperation, while kids cheer at the comfort and security of family restored. Then, just before the credits roll, the film sneaks in one last comedic beat with Buzz's shout, "Kevin, what did you do to my room?" reminding audiences that, despite everything, the McCallister chaos continues. It's the perfect blend of sentiment and humor, leaving viewers both satisfied and smiling as the story wraps up. What makes Home Alone truly exceptional is that audience engagement doesn't end when the movie does. The emotional connections it builds, the laughs it delivers, and the nostalgia it creates linger long after the credits. It's a movie that sparks conversations across generations. Parents reminisce about seeing it as kids, teens quote its iconic lines, and children dream of setting their own booby traps. Viewers debate whether Kevin's antics are heroic or reckless, whether the parents' negligence is forgivable, and even whether the wet bandits could realistically survive Kevin's sadistic inventions. That ability to live beyond the screen is why the film remains a cultural cornerstone decades after its release. Every year, when families rewatch Home Alone, the emotional beats still land, the laughter still bursts out, the gasps still echo, and the warmth still washes over living rooms around the world. The film doesn't just entertain, it creates a sense of community among viewers, binding generations together through shared reactions, repeated quotes, and collective nostalgia. It's not passive watching, it's active participation. We anticipate the jokes. Home Alone sits at an interesting crossroads. It borrows familiar beats from several established genres, but stitches them together in a way that feels fresh. On paper, it's a family holiday comedy, but structurally it borrows from capers and home invasion thrillers, from slapstick tradition to coming-of-age stories, and the result is a hybrid that a lot of movies flirt with, but few pull off as cleanly. Where many family comedies of the era lean solely on cute premise or sentimental payoff, Home Alone marries meticulous plot mechanics, reconnaissance, planning, escalation, climactic payoff, with childlike logic and household-scale invention, which makes the film feel both like a polished heist picture and like a kid's fantasy of empowerment. That double identity is its signature and the first big way it distinguishes itself from peers. Compare it to its own sequels and franchise attempts, and you see the difference that authorship and place make. The immediate sequel kept the same lead and creative team but shifted location and scale. The larger, more public spaces in the follow-up dilute some of the intimate, map-like fun of the original house as playground. Later franchise entries recast the premise with new kids and smaller budgets, and those installments expose how much the original's success depended on the specific combination of writer, director, lead actor, production design, and score. Take any one of those away, and the formula feels hollow. So the franchise demonstrates how replicable the premise is easy, versus how hard it is to reproduce the tonal alchemy that made the first movie sing hard. Put Home Alone next to other family-centered comedies, and you can trace clear lineages and divergences. From John Hughes' other work, it inherits the suburban texture, witty one-liners, and emotional honesty about family dysfunction. The screenplay's economy and ear for domestic chaos sit squarely in Hughes' wheelhouse, even though he didn't direct. Against Hughes' teen comedies, Ferris Bueller, The Breakfast Club, Home Alone shifts the viewpoint younger and swaps teen wistfulness for literal childhood survival, but it keeps that same knack for letting youthful perspective rewrite adult rules. Against Chris Columbus's later family films, you spot a through line too, a fondness for warm production design, a child-centered camera, and an emotional clarity that sacrifices ambiguity for accessibility. Columbus's later family fare, and even his early work on large-scale fantasy, shows similar priorities: clear emotional beats, visually readable set pieces, and earnest sentiment. If you compare Home Alone to straight action or thriller entries that also use an isolated setting, think of adult home invasion movies, the contrast is revealing. Where a film like Die Hard treats the lone hero setup as pure suspense, Home Alone translates that template into something playful. The stakes are domestic rather than geopolitical, and the antagonists are cartoonish foils rather than existential threats. The effect is to borrow the structural tension of a thriller while neutralizing its danger with comedy. Audiences can enjoy the same, will he be found? Tension while laughing at pratfalls instead of shrinking from true peril. That tonal pivot opened a door for family films to borrow the momentum of action cinema without inheriting its darkness. Place it beside adventure films that center kids, The Goonies, for instance, and the similarities continue. Improvisation, kids versus grown ups, clever problem-solving, and a sense that ordinary spaces can hide extraordinary possibilities. The difference is scale and intimacy. The Goonies is about an outside adventure and group dynamics. Home Alone compresses the entire caper into one house and one protagonist's arc, which concentrates audience empathy and makes every creak and corridor matter. That compression is part of its novelty. The suburban home is repurposed as an action stage, and that reimagining of domestic space influenced later family movies that treat everyday settings as playgrounds for spectacle. Look back further, and Home Alone's slapstick roots become obvious. The film functions like a modern silent-era gag reel updated for late 20th century sensibilities. Physical comedy, precise timing, and visual payoff are prioritized, but the film hybridizes that physicality with narrative logic. Every trap has a setup and payoff, rather than pure gag-for-gag repetition. That marriage of planning and pratfall is why the traps still get laughs. They feel earned within story logic rather than tacked on as random jokes. In terms of originality, Home Alone's novelty is less about inventing entirely new tropes and more about recombining them in a new register. Caper structure plus child POV plus domestic slapstick plus holiday warmth equals a package that felt singular at release. Many films before and after have used one or two of those elements, but few wrapped them into a single, coherent tone. The movie's success is an execution story. The same pieces assembled less skillfully produce pale imitations, assembled well, sharp screenplay, charismatic child lead, deft direction, tactile production design, and an affecting score. They produce something that feels new. Finally, consider legacy and influence. Home Alone set a blueprint. Child protagonist ingenuity as a central engine, household scale, weapons, and an emotional through line that justifies the spectacle. Subsequent family films borrowed the idea of elevating a familiar setting into an arena of adventure. Holiday programming increasingly tried to blend sentiment with sharper set-piece comedy, and the film's stylistic choices, practical effects, camera at kid-eye level, a score that signals both mischief and heart, became reference points. Even when later entries in the franchise or imitators failed, the original remained a yardstick for how to marry high-concept comedy with genuine warmth, which is why it still gets compared favorably to films that either skew too sentimental or too gag-driven without balancing both. Home Alone thrives on more than slapstick comedy and holiday chaos. Beneath the pratfalls and one-liners lies a tapestry of subtle symbolism, recurring motifs, and visual metaphors that enrich the story's emotional core without ever drawing too much attention to themselves. It's a movie that on the surface plays like a festive family comedy, but if you watch closely, every detail, every camera choice, and even certain props quietly reinforce deeper themes of loneliness, independence, forgiveness, and belonging. These little threads aren't thrown in by accident. They're baked into the film's DNA, and they deepen the way we connect with Kevin's journey. One of the most central metaphors is Kevin's house itself. At first, it represents everything overwhelming about childhood, a big, chaotic space filled with noise, tension, and a lack of control. The early scenes show Kevin as a small figure swallowed up by towering staircases, crowded rooms, and constant movement, a visual way of showing us how insignificant he feels within his own family. When he wishes they'd all disappear, the house becomes his kingdom, transforming into a literal playground of independence. But as the movie unfolds, the house changes metaphorically again. The silence and isolation start to weigh on him, and those same walls that once symbolized freedom now become a reminder of emptiness and longing. By the time he sets up his traps, the house becomes something else entirely, a reflection of Kevin's transformation from helpless child to resourceful defender, turning ordinary household objects into tools of empowerment. The film also weaves in subtle religious and spiritual symbolism, particularly around themes of redemption and forgiveness. The church sequence with Old Man Marley isn't just a touching emotional beat. It operates like a metaphorical confessional. Kevin, initially frightened by the rumors about Marley, learns to look past appearances, and in return, Marley opens up about his own estrangement from his family. Sitting together under stained-glass windows, surrounded by candlelight and soft choral music, there's an almost sacred atmosphere to their conversation. That setting reinforces one of the film's quiet messages. The holidays aren't just about gifts and spectacle, but reconciliation, grace, and finding the courage to make amends. Marley's eventual reunion with his daughter mirrors Kevin's longing for his own family, creating a symbolic parallel that runs beneath the surface narrative. The use of windows and doors throughout the film serves as another layered motif. These boundaries, sometimes barriers, sometimes points of entry, represent the transition between safety and danger, isolation and connection. We constantly see Kevin peering through windows, both watching the outside world and being watched by the wet bandits. The windows become symbolic thresholds, They mark the fragile line between childhood innocence inside and the threatening adult world outside. When Kevin finally faces Harry and Marv head-on, he crosses that threshold, symbolizing his step into maturity. The moment he locks doors, sets traps, and takes ownership of the house visually reinforces his journey from passive to proactive, a transformation conveyed without heavy-handed dialogue. Even smaller props carry symbolic weight. Kevin's toothbrush scene, where he nervously asks if it's approved by the American Dental Association, works beyond its surface-level humor. It captures a child grappling with concepts of right and wrong in a world suddenly without adults. Similarly, the aftershave gag, where Kevin slaps it on and screams in exaggerated agony, is more than a laugh. It subtly symbolizes his experimentation with adulthood, mimicking routines he associates with being grown up, but still reacting with the raw sensitivity of a child. These little visual metaphors scatter the film with reminders of Kevin's liminal state, not quite a dependent kid anymore, but not fully independent either. Recurring motifs of light and warmth also deepen the film's emotional landscape. The house, when full of family, glows with soft, warm tones. When Kevin is alone, those same rooms feel cold and dim. During the Christmas Eve montage, the lighting shifts deliberately. Warm golden lights inside the church represent emotional healing and connection, while the icy blue tones outside the house underscore Kevin's solitude and vulnerability. When Marley reunites with his family at the end, framed by glowing lights spilling from his home, the imagery mirrors Kevin's emotional reunion with his mother, visually tying the theme of family reconciliation to the film's holiday aesthetic without ever saying it outright. The Wet Bandits, meanwhile, serve as more than simple comic villains. They act as symbolic extensions of Kevin's fears and growth. At first, Harry and Marv represent uncontrollable chaos invading Kevin's safe, predictable world. But by defeating them using his creativity, Kevin essentially confronts the big scary unknowns of life on his own terms. The traps themselves, paint cans, toy cars, feathers, tar, and broken ornaments, become metaphors for resourcefulness born from necessity. Everything Kevin uses to protect himself comes from within the home, underscoring the theme that the tools we need to overcome challenges are often right in front of us, waiting to be repurposed. Even the film's score contributes symbolically, with John Williams's use of motifs like "Somewhere in My Memory." The melody isn't just beautiful, it underscores Kevin's longing for connection and belonging, while its soft, almost lullaby-like qualities tie back into the movie's recurring exploration of childhood innocence. Whenever this motif returns, it deepens our emotional understanding of Kevin's internal state without him needing to say a word. Home Alone works because it layers meaning beneath the surface humor, giving viewers something deeper to latch onto without sacrificing accessibility. It's a movie that rewards repeat viewings, not because its plot is complex, but because its symbolic architecture is so thoughtfully constructed. From the shifting meaning of Kevin's house to the metaphoric use of doors, windows, and light, the film invites us to experience the holiday chaos while subtly reflecting on themes of growth, forgiveness, and the fragile balance between independence and connection. It's this richness, these hidden visual and emotional cues, that allows the film to resonate across generations, offering something different each time you revisit it. Home Alone sits in a curious sweet spot between standalone miracle and full-blown franchise seed. As a single film, it launched a cultural phenomenon, and as the first entry, it established the tonal, visual, and emotional template that later installments would either imitate or squander. The original 1990 picture became the reference point, a tightly plotted, kid-centered caper wrapped in holiday warmth, and that success invited sequels, TV follow-ups, and a 21st-century reboot that tried to recapture the mix of mischief and heart while rarely matching the original's precise alchemy. In franchise terms, the movie is the high-water mark. Home Alone 2 kept some of the original team and star power, and thus preserved much of the charm. But once the series began rotating new child leads, TV budgets, and different creative teams, the tonal clarity and handcrafted production values that made the first film sing faded. Those follow-ups reveal something important about serializing an idea that originally worked because of a very specific confluence: John Hughes' warm but economical script, Chris Columbus's kid-obsessed direction, Macaulay Culkin's uncanny charisma, practical effects, and Julio Mackett's camera that made a house feel epic. Historically, the film also marks a moment in late 20th century family entertainment where Hollywood leaned into hybrid genres. It borrowed the beats of a heist or home invasion movie, but filtered them through child logic and slapstick, creating a new template for how family films could deliver adrenaline and sentiment in the same breath. It catalyzed careers. Culkin became an overnight star. Columbus and Hughes cemented their reputations in kid-friendly mainstream cinema, and it shifted industry expectations for holiday releases. Studios saw that a cleverly pitched, feel-good caper could become a perennial money spinner and a seasonal viewing ritual. Culturally, the film's footprint is enormous. Its set pieces, lines, and motifs entered the holiday lexicon. The house became a tourist curiosity, and broadcasters learned to program it like a ritualistic fixture of the season. Even its later, lesser spin-offs and a modern streaming reboot underline how bankable the concept is, if not always how replicable the tone. When you stack it up against similar films and franchise trajectories, Home Alone stands out because the original is almost impossibly well-calibrated, a time capsule of pre-digital childhood freedom, practical effects comedy, and a family-centered emotional core, and the history that follows shows the common franchise problem. The premise is durable, but the precise combination of talent and circumstances that made the first film special proved hard to duplicate. Home Alone's financial story is one of those rare Hollywood rags-to-riches giggles. It was produced for a relatively modest sum, around $18 million, but went on to pull in roughly $285.8 million in the US and about $476.7 million worldwide, meaning the domestic theatrical gross was about 15.9 times the production budget and the worldwide theatrical gross about 26.5 times the budget. Gross minus production budget is almost equal to $458.7 million before exhibitor cuts and marketing. That kind of multiple turns a modestly financed family comedy into a blockbuster by any studio math. Even after you account for theater splits, prints, and advertising, distribution fees, and other costs, which eat into the headline number, the film's theatrical run was enormously profitable, and smart ancillary channels, home video rentals and sales, TV syndication, soundtrack, and merchandising kept the cash flow going for years. Why did a relatively low-budget movie look and feel so polished? Because the production squeezed maximum value out of every dollar. Economy of locations and sets that were staged to double as stunt-friendly playgrounds, practical effects and stunt choreography instead of costly early CGI, an experienced creative team, tight script, precise direction, a memorable score, and a charismatic child lead. All of which amplified perceived production quality far beyond what the raw budget suggests. Marketing and release strategy fed that success. A November/holiday season rollout positioned the film as a must-see family event. Trailers and posters highlighted its comic hook and Kevin's iconic imagery, and word of mouth. Families bringing other families, repeat holiday viewings, compounded box office legs. International appeal added another layer. The U.S. box office accounted for roughly 60% of the worldwide total, showing unusually strong domestic traction but also solid global performance. And the film's transformation into a perennial holiday staple via TV airings and home video playlists turned a single-season hit into a recurring revenue engine. In short, the movie is a textbook example of high production value for relatively low capital outlay, amplified by canny marketing timing and cultural stickiness that turned theatrical success into a long-lived franchise and catalog asset. If you want to watch Home Alone 1990 today, you've got plenty of options depending on how you prefer to experience it. The easiest way is to stream it on Disney+, since it's currently part of their catalog, making it simple to click and play if you already have a subscription. If streaming isn't your style, or you want more flexibility, you can also rent or buy digital copies from major platforms like Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, and Google Play. Rentals usually give you a 30-day window to start watching and a 48-hour period to finish once you've pressed play, while purchases let you own it permanently in your digital library. For movie lovers who appreciate the best picture and sound quality, the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray editions are the ultimate way to experience Home Alone. The disc versions deliver cleaner visuals, richer color depth, and superior audio compared to most streaming services, thanks to higher bitrate and less compression. Some editions even come in limited collector's packaging like steelbooks, which adds an extra bit of charm for fans who love physical media. If you're looking for the fullest impact, nothing beats watching it on a big screen with HDR enabled, paired with a good surround sound system to make John Williams' iconic score hit harder and the sound of every trap feel more immersive. Turn down the lights, grab your favorite holiday snacks, and gather family or friends around for the experience. Home Alone thrives when it's watched together, with laughter echoing during the chaos and quiet moments shared in collective nostalgia. Whether you stream, rent, buy digitally, or collect the Blu-ray, the magic of the movie doesn't change, but the setup you choose can turn it from just another viewing into a cozy, cinematic holiday event.